Now for Colts Central Radio, here's Tyler Brooke and Nate Dunlevy.
Good evening, Colts fans. Welcome to Colts Central Radio. I'm your host, Nate Dunlevy. I'm here with my co-host, Tyler Brooke. How you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing good, man. Right now I'm watching Indiana Hoosiers football. I don't know why I'm doing it, but hey, they're winning.
Well, we're going to try to conduct ourselves tonight in a way that will have more importance than what happened on the field in Cincinnati this evening, where the Indianapolis Colts got curb stomped once again by the Cincinnati Bengals in what, no matter what anyone says, is an absolutely meaningless affair.
Yes.
So, Tyler, with the preseason wrapped up and the season opener just around the corner, what are your big takeaways from the 2013 preseason?
It's going to sound pessimistic. I'm still concerned about the pass rush and the interior of the offensive line. I'm not sure Mike McGlynn and Samson Sattelli can get it done on the inside of that offensive line. And then so far, that pass rush has not looked good in the preseason.
Are you ready for the Terrell Pryor show to show up here in Indianapolis here in another week?
I don't think I'm really worried about that at this moment.
All right. Well, tonight we have one of my absolute favorites on as a guest, Scott Kacsmar, Captain Comeback, former writer for ColtsAuthority.com, ColdHardFootballFacts.com, ProFootballReference.com, NBCSports.com, and now he is writing exclusively for my favorite website, FootballOutsiders.com, and he specializes in all kinds of incredible tape and data collection. Good friend and absolutely one of the best writers out there. So we'll be talking to him about what he expects to see from the Colts in 2013.
Check out ProFootballCentral.com for all the latest NFL news and analysis. Also check out the very popular Pro Football Central Radio Network for awesome NFL talk around the league. Go to ProFootballCentral.com. ProFootballCentral.com.
And we're back with the Bonita Tequila Hotline. We've got James Osborne, Colts writer for Pro Football Central. Hey, James, thanks for joining the show tonight.
Absolutely. How we doing, guys?
Outstanding, man.
We're doing good. Hey, James, first thing I want to talk to you about, we've gotten to see the Colts now through the entire preseason. Preseason's now finally wrapping up. What are the biggest impressions you've made about this Colts team, both good and bad, so far?
Impressions, good and bad. I think the good, Andrew Luck. Clearly, we've seen some people broach the subject of the sophomore jinx, and whether that's fact or fiction, I mean, it's neither here nor there. But I think Luck has stepped up maybe a little bit more so than myself and maybe some other people have thought. The guy really looks sharp. Unfortunately, you saw Chuck Pagano come out towards the end of last week's game against Cleveland, since Luck didn't step foot on the field tonight, and said he might be running a little too much still for anyone's comfort. So that probably leads into our bad, if you will. I think there's a couple of areas on bad. That offensive line, clearly in the offseason, Ryan Griggs and Coach Pagano really targeted that offensive line. Went out, money on Gazzer Cherilis and some pretty decent money on Donald Thomas. Try and get that thing going, both through injuries and also maybe just some ineffective play that still remains a concern. So I would say probably the top bad, if you will, it's got to be that offensive line. I think the second bad, and we certainly saw it tonight, that special teams kick coverage. That's going to go as Pat McAfee goes. If he just does not boom that thing out of the end zone, even if it's 9.5 yards deep, people are going to bring it out. And that kick coverage just looking pretty bad, regardless of who you got there.
You mean so it's not actually just Bill Polian's fault that the Colts can't cover kicks? It certainly seems like things haven't gotten any better under the Ryan Grigson regime.
Yeah, maybe last year you could have said, well, you haven't completely weeded out all those Polian guys, so come on, we slapped a pill and pin that on Bill. But just for whatever reason, special teams just remains a concern with this Colts team, kind of regardless of who you got out there. Now, some of that will, again, you go to injuries. That seems to be pretty much a constant, especially for those Colts defensive backs. And when you're talking special teams, talking these guys that might make the roster, those linebackers, those DBs, they have to be able to play special teams. like they always say, you cannot make the roster from the tub. So regardless, like you said, of who is out there, just continues to be a struggle, that kick coverage.
Now, there are two guys that have been shining so far in training camp and preseason. They've been Griff Whalen and Caesar Rayford. In your opinion, which one of those guys do you like more?
You know what? That's a great question, and it's kind of one you're going to make me hedge a little bit and think about. I think maybe if you want to talk opportunity, Whalen might have more. Kind of a couple of reasons there. Number one, Levon Brazil, I mean, in this day and age, you get warned the first time you have a problem with that substance abuse, and when you come back and test positive again, I mean, you got to really wonder what some of these guys are thinking. So with Brazil being out those first 4 games, Griff Whalen certainly has an opportunity to stick on this roster. The guy can't stay healthy. He's kind of a spry guy. He's a little dude. Reminds a lot of people of Austin Collie, and we'll stay away from those concussion issues. That poor guy, but. Whalen certainly seems to me to have the better opportunity to stick. Now, you look at Caesar Rayford, certainly he's blown up. 6 sacks through the preseason. One of those was wiped out by a penalty tonight, by Saturday night. Tonight the Bengals, Rayford saw pretty much action the entire game tonight, since he just ran right at him. And, I think that's the way to go. Rayford, the guy's got an amazing story. 27 years old, coming in from, both the CFL, the Arena League. He can put his hand in the dirt. He can come after you, and he can take down your quarterback. If you want to neutralize that guy, what do they always say? Same thing they said with Dwight Freeney, run at him. So Rayford has been impressive tonight, completely neutralized, but kind of across the board, the Bengals did that. They had their way tonight. I'll go with Whalen just because of that opportunity he has to stick and stay. Brazil going to miss the first 4 games, not going to count against the roster. But, neither one of those guys particularly impressive tonight.
Hey, let me ask you this, James. I posted this on Twitter earlier tonight. If Matt Hasselbeck was the starting quarterback for this team for the next 16 games, let's say Andrew Luck was abducted by aliens tonight and the Colts went into the Oakland game knowing that Hasselbeck was going to be their starter all season long, how many games do you think this team would actually legitimately win with Matt Hasselbeck as a starting quarterback?
Well, first of all, if Luck got abducted by aliens, that might go back to the neck beard, which he kind of had going again tonight. I don't know what it is with that guy. I mean, he knows. He's got a hot girlfriend. Come on, she's got to tell him that.
They find it irresistible, and they completely abduct him.
It's got to be. They love that neck beard. I'll tell you what, and quite honestly, the Colts just have not placed any type of premium whatsoever on the backup quarterback position. They rolled the dice, and you know what? They made it work more times than not when number 18 was here. And you saw it that one year, though, when number 18 just wasn't able to stand up there. The whole house of cards just fell. Hasselbeck, clearly, their most experienced backup they've had ever since going way back to Mark Rippon. I think if, like you said, if you knew Hasselbeck had to play 16 games, what kind of record are we looking at here? Hasselbeck, he's not the most mobile guy. He's up there a little bit in age, kind of goes back to that concern with the offensive line. A lot of people are saying even with Luck, maybe around 10 wins. If Hasselbeck had to go all the way, honestly, I think this team might struggle. Maybe you're looking at 8-8, maybe a 500 record, possibly 9-7. Just an entirely different situation between Hasselbeck back there with this leaky offensive line and Luck.
I'll be honest, I think you're pretty optimistic. I think that they'd be lucky to win 3 games with Hasselbeck behind this offensive line. I sort of am of the school that if Luck were to get hurt and miss a half or miss a quarter and you needed somebody that wasn't going to go in and crap all over himself, well, then Matt Hasselbeck's going to have your back in that situation. But to be completely honest, in a situation that's going to call for a starting quarterback to actually go out and win games, I don't think he's capable of it. Not behind this offensive line. I think he would get killed. Just watching the way they played against Cincinnati, I think against a real team in a real game, it would be an ugly situation. I think we'd see something much closer to 2011 than we did 2012.
I think you bring up a good point. The way they look tonight kind of harkens back to those old Polian, number 18 days where they just kind of the preseason was what it was, and you forget everything except for maybe the first half of that third game. No doubt they look bad tonight. Second year into the process, Ryan Grigson, very strong first draft. This year kind of went more toward the trenches. That hasn't panned out. Of course, Khalid Holmes, he had those ankle injuries. They're just now getting into action. You know what? You probably have a good point there. Much like number 18, let's face it, kind of made those old teams, regardless of what anybody wants to say. Because we're seeing very quickly just how much number 12 is able to carry on his shoulders and really improve a lackluster cast. You may have a good point there. Why don't we do this? Why don't we split the difference? You're going 3. What did I say? 8. I don't know. Let's call it 5, and we'll go grab.
That's probably safe. Yeah, you're probably safe there. So, last question, James. Let me ask you this: this team has some tough games coming up on the schedule, but it looks to me like 3 of the most winnable games they're going to face all year are going to be in the first 4 weeks. So you're going to open with Oakland, you're going to open with Miami, and then you've got Jacksonville 2 weeks after that in Jacksonville. If the Colts don't go 3-1 to start the season, give me odds that they end up making the playoffs if they lose one of those 3 games.
No, you've got a good point there. Certainly a lot of people pencil in that first loss of the year out at San Francisco. I'd have to agree with that. The odds that they make the playoffs if they drop one of those, first 3 quote-unquote winnable games, to be quite honest with you, you look at the way the schedule plays out, there is just a murderer's row that really kind of starts with Seattle from there on out. If you're looking at 2-2 or worse coming out of those first 4 games, those odds are really, really just going to plummet. And I think you're probably down underneath 25% if you can come out 3-1 or better.
Yeah, when you look at that schedule, you really have to say that the most accessible games the Colts are going to see all season long are going to be early in the year, and after that, there's a really good chance they could play solid football and still lose 3 of their next 4 games pretty easily. I mean, nobody's going to necessarily chalk up wins in Seattle and Texas and against Denver, and obviously a tough Monday night game against San Diego. I look at this team, and as much as everybody's excited about it, when you look at the schedule, there's not actually much room for error. There's some games they have to win, and if they don't win them, things could go south in a hurry.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I completely agree. And you mentioned it, and in particular, let's start looking at, a Monday night across the coast. You have to play that Monday night in San Diego. Who knows what San Diego's going to look like? The Colts have always had problems going out there. If Manning's not throwing 6 interceptions, the punter is, pinning them at the 0.2-yard line all game or something ridiculous like that. So certainly you come off that Monday nighter on a very short week, and then, oh, by the way, a team, Denver, and that new quarterback they have comes calling on a Sunday night. Very, very tough front stretch. Kind of goes back to what you said. You really got to come out 3-1 out of those first 4 games at worst. Otherwise, those next 4 to 5 games, they're just a murderer's row.
So, hey, James, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? Are you on Twitter, where they can find your writing? And, let everybody know how they can track you down.
Oh, absolutely. I'm kind of all over the place, a little here, a little there. Definitely at Twitter, and it's at Jim Osborne 45, OSBORNE. Also writing, you can see me on Pro Football Central and also Examiner.com. More often go by Jim than James. Either way, kind of out there all over the place. You'll see me tweeting a lot. Probably going to be putting up an article here very soon, both on Pro Football Central and Examiner, coming out of this last very lackluster preseason game. What are we looking at going into week 1, and maybe who's going to make this roster?
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on tonight. I'm sure we'll have you on again as the season goes along. Really appreciate your time, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks, man.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
Football fans, check out ProFootballCentral.com for all the latest NFL news and analysis. Also, check out the very popular Pro Football Central Radio Network for awesome NFL talk around the league. Go to ProFootballCentral.com. ProFootballCentral.com.
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Live on the Bonita Tequila hotline, we have Captain Comeback himself, Scott Kacsmar. Give him a big hand, everyone. That's awkward because you're sitting at. Thank you, Tyler. The rest of you that just cheered at your desk or on your iPod while you jog, I am embarrassed for you. Scott, thanks for coming on the show tonight, man.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the humidity or just the awful preseason games tonight, but I had to hit the shower and I missed the calls earlier.
Yeah, no problem, man. We're glad to have you on. Hey, could you start by – there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is the kind of reception that this man deserves. Hey, Scott, can you tell everybody, for the few people out there that may not be familiar with you, I first came across your writing on Pro Football Reference, caught you commenting on 18 to 88 back in the day a few times, saw your commenting on the Football Outsiders, and in the time since then, you've become a worldwide media sensation.
That's
yeah, that's
I've never left that. I've never left the house one day to do any of it, really.
Hey, tell everybody how you got your start.
Yeah, I've probably been collecting data since about 2003 or so, senior year of high school, just keeping stats from back in the days when there weren't too many good stats on the internet. I mean, NFL.com didn't even have some of the most basic stuff. And, just putting stuff together, finding trends, started collecting games, 2005, building a library of video, and then just, as time goes by, you collect more, you watch more, you learn more, and you find opportunities with all the websites that have come along. Like you mentioned, Pro Football Reference, that was kind of my foot in the door place, just from reading the great blog they had there, and just being asked out of the blue one day, hey, you said you had some data, would you be interested in selling it? And just like that, you kind of make a business connection, and I sell data, and then just turns into writing about that data, writing about the research, and before you know it, you actually end up with a full-time job a couple of years later.
Well, it's pretty amazing. We've caught your work recently on Cold Hard Football Facts, on Bleacher Report, and you're known as one of the most lengthy columnists probably in the business. So how do you see with your new role at Football Outsiders, how are you going to tame the unwieldy beast that are your 5,000-word columns?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Football Outsiders, I could pretty much unleash what I can there, but you write for ESPN Insider, you kind of have to, trim off the fat a little bit, make it a bit leaner. It's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, you tell someone, just write a 1,200-word article, but if you're doing a pretty advanced topic, it's hard to explain everything in 1,200 words. So it's a different challenge, one I'm getting used to. And I'm still going to unleash unholy hell on different topics. I got one for Sports Illustrated, which hopefully they don't take the 4,000-word beast and trim it down too much, but I'm hoping that'll be out within the next week. I'm still going to, hit it the way I do and try to cover all the bases and make sound arguments with reasoning, and that's how I am.
Fantastic. What are you working on right now for FO? Give people an idea of what your sort of weekly schedule is going to be. What kind of pieces are you going to be doing? I can only assume that the Captain Comeback staple is going to come back for Football Outsiders as well, huh?
Yeah, I mean, just some little random stat pieces, stat studies. This coming Tuesday, we'll do the comeback column. Actually, it needs a new name, so maybe on Twitter we can open up some ideas because we're kind of confused. But, we're going to have a new name, but, the same material that only I have really to write about. And we're doing that every Tuesday during the season on FO. And I got I'm going to tread into the fantasy sit start world of writing for ESPN Insider every Wednesday. My whole thinking on that is, as long as you're logical, don't be afraid to be wrong, and just do that every Wednesday, and then just some general pieces. And as always, whatever I find interesting during the week, that's what I choose to write about.
Well, fantastic. Hey, can you let everybody know? Now, I know you are from Pittsburgh, and you've been writing on Colts blogs for a long time. Can you clear up the sort of discrepancy that goes on here? Now, rumor has it you're a Steelers-Colts fan. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could kind of blame Cordell Stewart for that a little bit.
I blame him for lots of things, Scott. I blame him for lots of things.
He's attributed greatly. Just the general Bill Cowher quarterback carousel has contributed a lot to my work and the search that better quarterback play does actually exist. And I think around 2002, 2003, just kind of I think the Colts game against the Steelers at Heinz Field in 2002 just kind of caught my eye when I was watching the Colts. And Tony Dungy, Pittsburgh connection, and Peyton Manning, he talked up as about Dan Marino, the next Dan Marino, one of my favorite quarterbacks when I was a little kid. And it just kind of caught my attention. And around that time, that's when the Colts pretty much ascended to the top of the AFC. And it's just a different team to watch. Not all defense and running game oriented, and just a chance to watch one of the gifted generational talents at the position, which I didn't think I was ever going to get to see in Pittsburgh, but we got a pretty good one with Roethlisberger.
So you spent most of last year breaking down a lot of film, and you did amazing work for Colts Authority on Andrew Luck. Give us an idea. Obviously, first year, way too early to tell. What do you think this guy's going to become? You've watched as much of his tape as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, he just seems to really pick things up quickly. I mean, last year we were talking early in the season about he wasn't throwing the deep ball too well, especially towards the right of the field. And then, just a couple weeks into the season, he started hitting on those throws. And then, I think you can even go back to his days in Stanford. After he makes an interception or a mistake, he comes right back, with a good drive usually. And, just right away, you've seen the 2-minute drills, the poise, quickly running the offense, knowing what to do. I mean, to me, I think his late season slump had as much to do with the offensive line getting less and less talented around him with injuries, and they could not protect him. And people talk about the interceptions, but you count the playoffs. I think he only had 3 interceptions on his last 190 passes or so, and one of those was a play that the referee botched, should have been a sack. He had a Hail Mary before halftime, then a tip ball in the playoffs. So I think he really cut that down, and we'll see. I think Peyton Manning had a lot of interceptions as a rookie, and we just seen such an increase in efficiency in his second year in 1999. And I think getting Pep Hamilton to change the offense from Bruce Arians. And I think we're just going to see this guy ascend even further in year 2 with more efficiency, less turnovers, just running the better offense. And, I think he'll be, very quickly up in that elite category.
Brother, back in the halcyon days of yore, I used to call a preseason the smart analyst test. And every year I'd focus on one meme that was going around the NFL writers, and I could tell whether somebody was smart or whether somebody was kind of a yahoo, depending on whether or not which side of the topic they fell on. And it was usually stupid stuff like, some injury on the offensive line will hurt Peyton Manning, or losing Edgerrin James would destroy the Colts. And this year I sort of feel like for Andrew Luck, the smart analyst test is if you say that Andrew Luck needs to work on his accuracy and you start citing his completion percentage and his interceptions as really anything that's going to be predictive for his future, I just say, man, you're somebody that didn't really watch that tape, didn't understand the offense or the situation that he was in. Because I look at those things, and yes, those stats are bad and they were glaring. They also don't concern me at all. I don't see accuracy as really being inaccuracy as being any kind of part of Andrew Luck's profile moving forward. Do you?
Yeah, I agree. I think, one of the big problems with the Colts last year is, they were statistically the worst 11-5 team ever. I mean, you really had to watch this team to understand how they were winning. And I think that's the big problem. They had such low expectations that they did not have many games on national TV. They had a Thursday night game in Jacksonville, which didn't really showcase the greatest talent. They had I think the New England game was national, so maybe a lot of people have seen that.
Yeah, it was a national 4 p.m. game, but it still wasn't the only game on that time.
Right, and then the playoff game, which exposed really a lot of the team's weaknesses around luck. And I think if you polled most NFL fans, even the hardcore ones that watch about as much as they can, those are probably about the only 3 games they might have watched last year. And you didn't get to see how the receivers had, by my count, counting plays where they were hit and dropped. They had about 61 drop passes last season. Just the amount of times he was hit as he threw. I mean, ESPN had the stat. It was 51 times. These quarterbacks like Russell Wilson had single digits. I mean, it's just, and Bruce Arians loves the vertical game. Only 10% of the completions went to running back. Just a lot of the deep throws. I mean, it was really a team, an offense, well, a whole team, but it was an offense especially that you had to watch to really understand how they were succeeding, because it sure wasn't the running game, which wasn't too good. It definitely wasn't the offensive line, which was, arguably the worst in the league for Arizona. But, you had to understand why they were winning, and there was no question it was the quarterback play.
Now, when we start talking about the big news this week of the Sports Illustrated cover with these 4 young quarterbacks, how do you see it shaking out? We've got RG3, Wilson, Kaepernick, and Luck all sort of lumped in together, sort of as new starters last year. They're going to transfer to the league. They all have a sort of a athletic running dimension. How do you see the ultimate pecking order of those 4 quarterbacks shaking out?
Yeah, before I rank them, I was going to say, it's great, I think, that the NFL is moving in this direction where teams are finding quarterbacks. In the past, you might have, the Colts might have found Luck, and they're set for the next 10, 15 years. But all these other great quarterbacks are, apparently going to be great quarterbacks. They weren't going to be found at the same time. And the more good quarterbacks you can have in the league, the more competitive things are going to be. And you're not going to have teams just going out 14-2 or 15-1 like with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady at the controls. So I think we're in store. If this continues the way it's going, we're in store for some really great decade, I think. And in terms of ranking them, I got Luck number 1. Kaepernick, he had the fewest starts of them all, but I have to put him number 2. I was on the Niners radio for you guys last week, and just really amazing stuff from him last year. The yards per attempt passing were just almost 9, including the playoffs, and his rushing, take out the kneel downs, and that's like 8.75 yards a carry, and he doesn't even get tackled that much. I mean, he's smart when he's running, and he's just so fast, and I think the team around him is so good that there's a lot of potential there. And then I put Russell Wilson number 3. I thought the way he ended the season, the second half, was phenomenal. I wish he would make a few quicker decisions, kind of some Fran Tarkenton type plays. I just think he's going to end up getting hurt doing that eventually. I'd like to see him get rid of the ball quicker, but if they could get Percy Harvin back late in the season, you could see that offense go to another level. And then I put RG3 4th, and I know some people think I'm bashing, but to me, I just think he had the easiest job. I mean, it was he had like that old Staples commercial with the easy button.
Yeah.
They pressed it for him quite a bit. And it's just not even, even little things in the game, like using the hard count. We've seen Luck and Wilson do those kind of things. I just didn't see that too much in Washington's offense, which, the read option, or not even just the read option, the play action pass. Football Outsiders been charting since 2005. No teams used the play action as often as the 2012 Redskins, like over 40%. And, I post many articles about the third down numbers. When you get the Washington into an obvious passing situation where play action's not as relevant or not as impactful, you see that the offense really struggle. And, that's something he can definitely get better in. We are talking about a sophomore quarterback, but, it's after 1 year, that's how I rank him.
A pretty remarkable offensive year, I thought, from Shanahan. He really, I think, established helps establish even further his reputation as one of the great coaches of all time, one of the great offensive minds. So let me ask you, this is a little bit of a thinking question, but you're a smart guy. Over the next 5 years, I want you to rank the franchises in the AFC according to how many games you think they're going to win. What do you see being the top franchises in the AFC over the next 5 years? Let's skip 2013 altogether. So we're going to go 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18. How do you see the AFC shaping up?
Yeah, I definitely think the Colts are a team that's, beyond Andrew Luck. I mean, they had a really good draft last year, which in some ways could be a problem. I was thinking about this lately. If you have to pay Luck, Dwayne Allen, and T.Y. Hilton at the same time, I could run into some future problems. But, just ignoring that for now and just thinking about the next few years, what these guys can do, I think they're definitely a team on the rise. But at the same time, I think, New England, I think they can crap out another 4 or 5 years with Brady and Belichick before they go on the honeymoon together for the rest of their lives. And I think they'll still be around. And Peyton has 4 years left on Denver. I could see him honoring that contract to the fullest, or who knows, he could win a Super Bowl or two and just retire on top. I don't think Brock Osweiler is really the future there. I think Manning's going to play out. I think
you're still just naming the old guard, man. And this is kind of my point. Who outside of 18 and 12 do you see making a long extended run in this conference? Flacco?
That's the thing. I mean, you're talking about a changing of the guard. And, the old guys aren't ready just yet. I mean, they were in top 2 seeds last year, and I think quarterbacks are going to play longer. I think Brett Favre showed that. And Favre had a lot more injuries than people remember. And he got lucky on that streak quite a few times, having a bye week at the right time and stuff like that.
Early in the early in the 99 or 2000 season, I remember watching him, and I told somebody that I worked with, he's done. Like, he just looked like his arm was just toast. Like, he looked like a pitcher who had lost his fastball. And then he played for like another 10 years after that, basically.
So let me mention Flacco and the Ravens. I want to see it first. I want to see with no Ray Lewis, no Ed Reed, and I thought the Anquan Bolden trade was a bit silly, especially when they did not add another receiver through the draft or free agency. So I want to see him carry an offense. That's missing a tight end, Dennis Pitta. That's has a gaping hole at receiver. So I want to see that first before. I mean, for all we know, Jeff Flacco might never win another playoff game. I mean, there's no guarantee that we're going to see him 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in big games again. I mean, for all you know, he could go the rest of his career and never win another playoff game.
There was nothing in his profile to portend what he did last January. I mean, it wasn't like you could look at his career up to that point and say, this is a guy who's going to go on one of the great hot streaks of all time in the playoffs. Like, absolutely nothing to make him stand out in that way.
Right.
So let me ask you real quick. Did you happen to catch the third preseason game between Indianapolis and Cleveland? Did you get a feed of that?
I did not.
Okay. Well, never mind. I was going to ask you what you thought of Brandon Weeden. I was extremely hard on him during the game. I had a Browns fan call me a clown. Then by halftime, he wrote me to apologize publicly. It was one of those moments that you live for, when somebody assaults you on Twitter, and then like by the end of the second quarter, they're like, "I'm sorry, dude. Like, you're right. He's horrible." As if I wasn't there watching him live and couldn't, make out very clearly that the guy was not playing very good at quarterback. When you look around the AFC, the other young quarterbacks, Locker, Gabbert, Tannehill, who am I missing? Geno Smith, I guess you could put in that boat. Anybody in the AFC West? None of these guys. Terrell Pryor. Do you see any of these guys being anything but average to below average quarterbacks?
Well, I think statistically, probably one of them has a chance to be pretty good, and I'd probably lean on Tannehill maybe. I'm not big on Miami. Some people have them challenging New England this year. I just don't see it. I think Mike Wallace was a big overpaid contract there. They lose a tight end, Dustin Kettler. I'm just not too big on that team right now. But, yeah, I mean, I think the AFC right now, it used to be such a great conference. And, we're seeing such a top-heavy conference now. Just the bottom's so bad. And, that's why when people talk about the Colts regressing this year, I mean, it's like, so what? I mean, they could still win 9 games and easily be the 6th or 7th best team in the conference. Oakland, I have them pegged as 2-14 at best. Maybe they get Teddy Bridgewater and that's the next quarterback. That's great, but that's down the road. And I just don't really see it with, especially Blaine Gabbert and Jake Walker. I think that's going to really help the Colts. And that's 4 games a year right there. I just think that the AFC, once Manning and Brady retire, it's Andrew Luck's conference.
Well, Scott, I've loved having you on. You're a friend, and you know that I'm a huge fan of yours, and have obviously followed your career closely, and more than happy to celebrate the success that you've had. And congratulations on the new gig. Pieces up on SI, on ESPN, on NBC. I got to tell you, it's really gratifying to see your success, and I just want to congratulate you again. So thanks for being a part of all of our lives. I love your stuff. I hope you can come on again soon. Tell the people every place that they can find you, Twitter, podcast, and writing. How can people find your work?
Well, I was going to say thanks for all those kind words. And, I have to owe a lot of credit to people like you who have promoted my work. Like I said, I've never left the house one day for any of my NFL-related career. Just it's been all done from my home, and just people wanting to read stuff and push it along, and that helps so much. And big thanks for that. And this season, like we said, I'll be writing at Football Outsiders every week. I'll have 2 pieces. I think we have to finalize the column. Might be the first, but I should have 2 pieces a week on ESPN Insider. They just kind of revamped that. A lot of good writers on there, so it's actually a good deal. You get a lot of good stuff from Mike Sando and other Football Outsiders writers, and have stuff on there. And then we're co-hosting Colts Authority every Wednesday at 10 p.m. inside the Writers Block. Kyle Rodriguez. We did that last season. We're doing that starting next week. And Twitter. I'm at FO_Scott Kacsmar, Kacsmar, because I'm not the Tampa Bay pitcher or whoever the hell he plays for now. And so that's it.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks for having me.
Football fans, looking to get healthy this year? Now is the time, and I have the perfect place for you. Save 10% at onit.com/football-radio. Exclusive PFC radio listeners save 10% off their order. That's onit.com, ONNIT.com/football-radio.
Fans, what have we learned today? Well, we've learned from Jim Osborne of PFC, Pro Football Central. He's a Colts blogger, that maybe the Colts are in pretty big trouble if they don't start the season hot. And we heard from Scott Kacsmar from Football Outsiders that he thinks Andrew Luck will be the best of the sort of quartet of young quarterbacks in the league. I want to thank both guys for coming on the show tonight, both fantastic guests, and we'll be sure to talk to them further as the season goes along. And listen, it's here. Real football. The next time we get together, we'll actually be previewing a real live football game that matters. Week 1 against the Oakland Raiders is just days away. The Colts will have roster cuts this weekend. We'll be looking out for our buddy Caesar Rayford, see if he made the squad, and we'll be back with more great guests very soon. Last thing I want to call your attention to, the Colts Authority Annual is still available. It will only be available for a limited time. You only have a couple weeks left to get it. $5. You can get it. If you go to ColtsAuthority.com, you'll see the little sidebar. You can go to MadisonHousePublishing.com and check the ebooks. It's a great download. Satisfaction guaranteed. I will personally refund your money if you don't think that this is worth every single penny of your $4.99. So be sure to download that while you've got a chance. For my co-host Tyler Brookie, this is Nate Dunlevy, and I'm saying go horse.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.